It was supposed to be an ordinary night. Patricia Anne Beck had just finished her shift at Golden Corral, an extremely hardworking, beautiful woman. Tired, maybe a little worn down from the day, she clocked out and she went home. Routine, familiar, nothing unusual. However, Patricia had plans. She was going to stop by a friend's house that evening. A simple visit. A way to wind down. But something happened before she could make it. Possibly as she was leaving, Patricia ran into two men. Her husband, Archie Beck, and his friend, Dennis. My name is Amber. You're watching Beyond the Silence, and this is the disappearance of Patricia Anne Beck. Before we can understand what happened to Patricia Beck, we need to go back before her disappearance, right? So it doesn't start with the disappearance. It starts with a relationship. A marriage that on the surface, it looked alright on the outside. They had their domestic disputes, but it looked alright. However, underneath that, there was something very dark. There were signs of danger, control, manipulation, abuse, so many red flags. To truly grasp what happened here, we need to walk through the timeline. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to look at what's been confirmed, so the facts, what's been alleged, so, speculation and whatnot, and, of course, what's still missing. We'll go step by step through all of these pieces and talk about the events that led up to Patricia's disappearance, and the aftermath and the questions that continue to still haunt this case. I'll be sharing my personal thoughts and theories closer towards the end after I lay out all the known facts. But first, let's begin where this story all starts. Before Patricia vanished, as she was trying to escape. Let's talk a bit about Patricia and Archie's relationship. So, it was a bit troubled. She had been trying to leave him, and some reports that she may have even got a protective order out against him. I had watched a podcast over the case. It was like the Texas Missing podcast. I'll link the video that I referenced from below. But I watched that, and it was basically about her disappearance and stuff. It didn't have too much about her life prior to. They do go on to talk about how Archie and Patricia, had a few domestic disturbances between them. Things of which I will get into a little later down the road. However, I do want to express that they said that they were able to find reports on this stuff, and I'm still looking. I sent an email, as you can see, and now I have to. Next step is just a call. Now I'm just gonna call and see if I can't figure anything out. I do see some fees listed here, but as long as it's too much, I should be able to cover it. So we'll see what we can find. It may lead to answers. I may not be able to find anything. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna try. Nonetheless, this is part of Patricia's story, the lack of answers. And it just feels all too familiar, honestly. Alright, so this is what we do know. That night, Patricia crossed paths with Archie and Dennis. That was the last time anybody saw her alive. She never made it to her friend's house like she had planned. She never called. She never came home. She just vanished. What followed was silence, a silence that has lasted for years. A silence filled with questions, with doubt, theories, heartbreak, and a silence that grows heavier with every day that Patricia is missing. Born on August 6, 1966, Patricia was 27 years old when she disappeared on July 28, 1994, from Waxahachie, Texas, standing between 5'6" and 5'8", and weighing approximately 120 to 130 pounds, so around in there. She was last seen wearing her Golden Corral uniform, a maroon and white striped button-down, faded black jeans, black lace-up shoes, and a watch with a leather black band. Working in the food industry, especially at a bustling place like Golden Corral, requires resilience, patience, and a strong work ethic. Patricia embodied these qualities, navigating the challenges of her job with dedication. At the time of her disappearance, Patricia was navigating the complexities of a recent divorce from her husband, Archie Beck. Reports indicated she had filed a protective order against him. We'll get into that a little later. But it highlighted her efforts to seek safety and, basically get away from him, right? While specific details about her personal interests and aspirations remain scarce, it's evident Patricia was striving for a better life. She was trying to get free from the shadow of her past. Her decision to distance herself from a troubled relationship speaks volumes about her courage and determination. Now we're going to go more in depth about Patricia and Archie's relationship. So basically it was marked by violence. Not just violence, but extreme violence. Though the two lived together for most of their relationship, their home life was anything but peaceful. So they basically had multiple encounters with law enforcement, particularly around domestic disputes. And it really paints a picture of how, the relationship was fraught with fear, control, abuse. In October of 1992, the situation became especially dire. So according to documents that were later retrieved by the lovely gals at the Texas Missing podcast, Patricia was arrested after an incident where she had actually fired a handgun in Archie's direction. She was charged with aggravated assault. Now, the report claimed that Patricia had intentionally and knowingly threatened Archie, basically to cause him serious harm or to kill him. And however, the case was later dismissed, and it's not really clear if it was lack of evidence that did this or if Archie just dropped the cases. However, it was dismissed. So it kind of makes us wonder, and this is just speculation, this is not fact, but it makes you wonder, was that part of Archie's way of, controlling her, It's oh, I dropped these charges on you, so you have to come back home to me type of thing, I don't know. I know it's kind of a reach, but you don't know. Despite this event, Archie faced no legal consequences at the time, nor did she. So neither one of them got in trouble for anything they had done to each other at that point. And of course, the disturbing incidents continued. So in September of 1993, Archie allegedly tracked Patricia down to a friend's house where she had just been hanging out. There, he reportedly drug her down the street, physically assaulted her in front of a witness, and he is said to have held a gun to her head, marking yet another terrifying encounter with Archie, the husband. This was not an isolated incident either. So by this point, there was a well-established pattern of threats, violence, abuse, intimidation, all of it. And most of it came from Archie, and it was received by Patricia. So I don't want to paint a picture like Patricia was this awful person. She was not. She was a battered and beaten woman. By July 1994, Patricia had clearly reached her breaking point. Following yet another violent episode, one that actually left her in the hospital, she was knocked unconscious in the midst of Archie beating the H out of her, and she woke up in the hospital, literally woke up in the hospital. what the hell? She had filed a protective order against Archie finally on July 13th. The successful filing of the order confirmed the severity of the abuse she had been enduring. So basically, like, it was a formal and legal recognition of danger that she was in. Like, the courts realized, like, she must have had proof via medical, statements or family witnesses or something. She had proof that I can't find for some reason, but she had proof that that was in a very, very bad, dangerous spot with Archie, and they granted her that order. All right, so July 13th, they granted the order, and it was accepted somewhere between July 13th and July 20th, right? Okay, so 15 days later, on July 28, 1994, only one day before Archie was supposed to be due to court to respond over the protective order that Patricia had against him, Patricia vanishes. One day before he's supposed to show up for that order, she's gone without a trace, and he's the last person to see her. So many, including her close family, I need to calm down. Many, including her close family members, believe that Archie's violent tendencies and repeated threats to kill her played a direct role into Patricia's disappearance. I mean, he's basically saying, I'm going to kill you. He's beating her in front of her friend's family. He's dragging her down the street. He doesn't care who hears, who sees, who none of it. He doesn't care. He did it. There ain't no way he didn't. I don't know if I can say that or not. Okay, let me go back. So many, including her close family members, they basically believe that Archie did this, that he held good on his threats because he had threatened her. He had beat the crap out of her in front of her family and friends, and then she disappears when she's finally had enough and tries to do something about it. A chilling statement allegedly made by Archie shortly after she vanishes still echoes in the memories of those close to her. When Patricia was in the hospital, after Archie beat the living crap out of her, he told her, and I quote, "Wait until we get home. I've got something for you, bitch." It's believed he was referencing the very same gun he had previously threatened to use against her. The timeline of events. So, from the 1992 shooting incident through Archie's repeated acts of violence to the protective order, and then Patricia's ultimate disappearance, this creates a very clear and just dreadful narrative, in my opinion. It tells a story of a woman who tried to fight back, and she really sought help. She was doing all the things that she was supposed to do. She was trying to leave and start a better life, and she never got that better life. She never got to pick up and move on and have her happily ever after. I mean, I don't even know what to say to this. It's pretty damn clear, in my opinion, what happened. And I don't understand why time and time again. I'm glad I didn't become a cop. I'll just say that much. I'm glad I didn't become a cop. I couldn't. It also raised troubling questions about how a man with a known history of violence managed to avoid some serious consequences until it may have been too late for this young, beautiful woman. Call it God's will, call it universe intervention, call it karma, call it what you will. Life does end up catching up to Archie, and we will talk about that in a bit. As a matter of fact, there's no time like the present. Let's talk about it right now. So I'll put it up on the screen. Years after Patricia went missing, Archie Beck basically was arrested and convicted for the sexual assault of a 13-year-old girl. He continued to harm her after his initial release from prison, adding another layer of terror to his already monstrous actions. So Archie is now serving a sentence of life in prison. So he's got 60 years, he's locked away, a fate that he has totally earned. Though this has nothing to do with Patricia and what happened to her disappearance, right? So that was never a connection that anybody made there. There was no evidence. However, despite the horrific crimes that he, committed later, his role in Patricia's life and the danger that he posed, it never really came into focus. Basically, like, when this happened, I'm sorry, I'm reading my case notes, but just to talk to you for a second, when this happened, basically, like, Patricia's case didn't even really receive any media attention or anything. Like, whenever this person was assaulted and all of this was going on, that's everything that the like media and stuff focused on. And I understand that that's like a huge issue and like it needs to be talked about and addressed. I just hate that Patricia's case didn't get the coverage that it needed as well. Anyway, so that's his karma. That's what I was referring to when I was saying like life catches up to Archie. All right, just a little recap. So Patricia goes missing. Her family, friends, and a few volunteers come out to help. That leads to nothing. Investigators quickly, start to look at Archie and they try to, link him to this case in any way, shape, or form, but they just can't find the evidence to do so. Over the years, people have said they have seen Patricia. However, none of these sightings have ever been confirmed. All right, we skip forward to 1997. There was a man named Craig Baxter. He said that Archie allegedly confessed to him about murdering Patricia and burying her body in a field. All right. That also led to nothing when the police searched this lead. And then if we skip forward to 2023, a new tip came in from a prison inmate, which led authorities to search a field near Lee Penn Park. And basically, in collaboration with the University of North Texas, they dug the area, and once again, nothing was found. So, as of right now, Patricia Beck is still missing, and the investigation remains open. Law enforcement do consider this to be a potential homicide due to the violent nature of her and Archie's relationship. However, they basically just don't have any leads. So, Sima says, this is Sima, by the way. Sima says, if you're ever in a situation where you're being hurt, you're scared, you're stuck, you feel like you can't leave, know that you can. Know that there are resources out there and there are people willing to help you to get out. Don't be stuck. Now, I do want to make it clear, Patricia wasn't stuck. Patricia was trying to leave and make better for herself. And unfortunately, in domestic situations, I'm not technically like pushing blame on anyone here, but in certain domestic situations, it's extremely dangerous. The leaving part can be extremely dangerous. I know that's scary. I know it's hard to be in situations like that, but you don't have to. You don't have to. Take a note out of Patricia's book, even though her story didn't end well. Take a note out of her book and don't stay where you're at if this is your situation. Please seek help. I've listed the numbers above as you see. But Sima loves you. I love you. And we can love you just because you're a human. And we love humans. Right, Sima? We love humans. They're so kind most of the time. Most of the time. So please, find kind humans and don't stay stuck. Be kind, be safe, and know you're loved. Know you don't have to be stuck. Right, Sima? Well, we needed some kitty comic relief, right? And what better than a big old fuzzy cat to do that?